Doggone it, Larry. I had an emotional breakdown scheduled, and it wasn't at the beginning. Man, let me gather my thoughts here. Excuse me while I sniffle into the mic more. Well, this is weird. I haven't preached on a Sunday morning in, since before I got here, 8 years. You know how Pastor Dave talks about sometimes saying different things in two services? I think I'm going to eat my words every single time. I've laughed at that joke today. We'll see what happens. Pastor Dave put it well, and Larry put it well in his prayer. My goal today is to share with you, I'm going to stop crying, I promise. My goal today is to share with you my passion for young adults. There's a lot to bring into this, but I have until 10:30, so I'm going to try and shorten it. When I first came here, I wasn't actually supposed to be a young adult pastor. When I first came here, I actually had intended on working under Pastor Dave for pastoral ministry. Due to some scheduling stuff that happened, we switched that, and I entered the young adult ministry. And I didn't know that God had that planned for me. And I think it was like the first 2 years, I still didn't think that God had that planned for me. But I started seeing young adults, specifically, we had a problem with, they were leaving the church after high school graduation. And it wasn't that there wasn't anything here for them. There were other things going on, and we had to figure that out. And in the process of figuring that out, it led to a lot of discussions. And I think I've been a good discusser my whole life, but this threw me for a loop. In asking the hard questions of why you left, like why did you leave the church? What's going on? How can we help? Well, simply the option of helping them was negative in some cases. They didn't want anything to do with it. And a lot of the stuff I'm going to present today is going to be not only what I heard in those conversations, but now also what I see being widespread knowledge throughout the globe. And so I want to go into this acknowledging that this message is going to be one of encouragement and hope. That be thou my vision, that's one of my favorite hymns of all time, and that has been my only prayer the entire time I've been at Westside. God, be my vision. Nothing from me, only from you. Be thou my vision, and my vision I want to spread to you today, the one that God has given me. And the vision is not only of the past and the present, but also of the future. I see amazing things happening in the young adult community, not at Westside, but across the globe. There are things happening, there is an awakening happening that I hope that I can explain to you properly today. A lot of this encouragement that I received came from M25 earlier this year. M25 was the missions conference. It happened in February. And my own focus there was simply just young adults. And I was happy that there were multiple seminars that there were time blocks. You had to, go to as many seminars as you could make. And there were several that were young adult focused, and that was really encouraging because I don't remember that ever being a thing. So I think I went to 6 conferences, and 4 of them ended up being about young adults. And the one thing I felt when I was there was I felt like I was out of place. I was out of place, and I had you all in mind. I had our group in mind. And here I am sitting around people who don't have a group. They're starting from the ground up, or maybe they just have those 1 or 2 people that we had in the very beginning. I felt out of place because, and this is my ego talking, I felt like I had all the answers to their questions. I was like, well, let me tell you what we did. But God kept my mouth shut, and I'm thankful that he did. Every young adult community is different. That's why it's important that we equip local churches to do the ministry in their own communities, because things that I'm going to tell other people across the globe aren't going to apply. Did you guys know that the young adult group, like the age group, the numbers that they give globally, according to the Nazarene Church, is 18 to 45? Did you know that? In our culture here, that doesn't really apply. And I asked some leaders and some mentors of mine, I was like, how does that make any sense? And they're like, well, across the globe, it works. Across the globe, it works. I felt out of place. I saw the success that God had granted to our group, and I just wanted to help fix all the other ones. But that wasn't the point of those meetings. My struggles as a leader are now and were different than leaders elsewhere. Everyone is different. Every community is different. There were some core things that were common denominators in all of those seminars that we went to, and that it was that the presenter wanted to equip the leaders that were there to find our own responsibilities in young adult ministry. And what that translated to is that each leader's responsibility is to help young adults find their responsibilities in young adult ministry. You have to pass it on. You have to let them do the ministry with you. If you don't, it won't work. We all have a responsibility to our faith. We have a responsibility to disciple others and be mentors. We have a responsibility to also be discipled and have mentors, accept mentorship. Young adult focus in the Nazarene church is increasing rapidly. There is a fire that is lit, and it is growing. Our age group seems to be, when we talk about young adults, the phrase in all those discussions that I was a part of kept coming up, mass exodus. That's what they all said, a mass exodus, that young adults are just leaving. They're just running away. There's no way to keep them in place. And because of that, we have researchers across the globe that are scrambling to figure out not only how to stop them from leaving, but to revert it, to bring those who have run back in. And I'd like to present some of that research to you today. One of the workshops that I went to was, led by Brad M. Griffin, and he works for the Fuller Youth Institute. Fuller Youth Institute is a research-oriented organization based at Fuller Seminary. It aims to equip church leaders and parents to help young people grow in faith. There is a lot of resources that Fuller Youth Institute has provided. Now, he started this workshop with two simple calculations. He said that church attendance, not on the slide just yet, I'll get to that in here in a second. Church attendance frequency is seen to drop the most in young adults under 30. Under 30, that is where they see the most drop in frequency of church attendance. Now this one is terrifying to me. Now every year they go and they tally up the number of people who have attended 0 church activities in a given year. Every single year they tally 0 event church people, okay? That number has only increased since 1940. There has never been a decrease since 1940. Just seems like they're dropping like flies, doesn't it? Mass exodus. And then he presented data from Barna. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of Barna before. It's a US-based research firm specializing in analyzing faith, culture, and societal trends, providing data and insights to churches, ministries, and Christian leaders to help them understand and respond to cultural shifts and spiritual behaviors. Now we got that first slide up there real quick. So this is from Barna. 1/3 of all Christian identifying young adults feel cared for. Now feeling cared for, don't know if you know this, it's a positive thing. That makes that 1/3 seem a little large. 1/3 of all Christian identifying young adults feel like someone believes in them. Also, very positive thing. Why is it only 1/3? 1/4 of all Christian identifying young adults feel lonely and isolated. We've got some work to do. There was another seminar led by Chris Bean. He's with a group called Intervarsity. Intervarsity is a Christian campus ministry serves college and university students across the U.S., focusing on evangelism, discipleship, and developing student leaders from Bible studies, small groups, and missions. And he presented that second bit of data there that we have. 72% of all young adults believe that churches are good for society. That's impressive. But only 34% of all young adults are active in religion. And only 20% of young adults have negative religious experiences. Now, I kind of took a little bit of interest in that negative religious experiences part because I was under the impression that that number would be larger. I think a lot of interviews have been held in recent years where it kind of seemed like the church was just hurting everybody. Now, I'm not saying that the church hasn't hurt people. I think that's important to note. The church has hurt people, and we have a responsibility to go and heal those relationships. But I think what's really interesting to me is that it's not that they don't like the church as an institution, despite what we've heard. So if that isn't the answer, if it's not that they just don't like church as an idea, they don't like organized religion, if that isn't the answer, then how do we explain this mass exodus? And we look back on that previous data, 1/4 of all Christian young adults feel lonely and isolated. Now, I've felt lonely and isolated before, and after a while it got old. You start to want to make changes. And if that change of feeling lonely and isolated involves leaving the church to escape that, that's a problem. We've got work to do, people. You can go ahead and hide that slide. Thanks, guys. So where is the disconnect? Where is the disconnect between young adults and older generations who are ministering to them? The answer that we concluded at these seminars is transitional differences. Every single one of the seminars that I went to included this in some capacity. Transitional differences. The fact is that the life path that we have to follow is not the same as the one that you guys did. It's not the same. It used to be high school, college, job, married, kid. I'm not saying I don't want that, but that's not the path that I took. I remember, this was odd. The last time I heard about finding the American dream, like achieving the American dream, I think that was back in like junior high. I kind of forgot that the American dream was a phrase. Because the problem is that now it's no longer everybody go out and grab that American dream. It sounds a little bit more like go out and claim your relative truth because you're not going to find happiness in the old way. And it's that moral relativism that puts our society in such a turmoil now. I'm not going to speak for everybody here because I am a young adult, so I can't speak to your life experiences. But from what I heard, when you guys were at school and what a teacher said, you know, if a teacher gave you a fact or a statement or something and you didn't like it, you were wrong. We've got teachers and educators in the world now who are highly decorated with every degree imaginable, and they are out there spouting nonsense. We can't just simply listen. We have to be active with the information that we take in. Those educators that we grew up learning to respect and to just take their word as law, that doesn't work anymore. That does not work anymore. Because of this, the focal point of my ministry here has been disconnection is solved with discussion. Disconnection is solved with discussion. There were research, obviously, well, we're talking a lot about research, but there were interviews that were conducted. This was on college campuses. I think it was just college campuses. But people went out and they started interviewing these people, and there were two quotes that really stood out to me coming from young adults. The first statement is, I'm trying to find my way between what has been and what's about to be. Now, I sense a lot of like sadness in that has been. It sounds like you've lost something, right? You've lost something. Trying to find my way between what has been and what's about to be. The second quote, there must be a space for people to both ask the questions and not like the answers. That's what we've done here. Young adults can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have some pretty tough discussions. And there are times where there are people in my group that don't agree with what I have had to say or what someone else in the group has had to say. And the last thing that we do is run off and just be mad at each other. The first thing that we do is we address it. Does anyone not agree? How can we come to an amicable conclusion here? And it's because of that those questions are now more comfortable to ask. Disconnection is solved with discussion. And this is where I was encouraged, is that the church, the Nazarene church, and Church Universal is so desperate for our age group. They're so desperate to bring us back in that they're doing all that. Research takes time, money, and travel, and some pretty unfortunate and difficult discussions. But they're putting in the work. They're so desperate for us. They're so desperate that they're trying to figure all this stuff out. Can we throw that second slide up there for me? This is from Fuller Youth Institute. When we're talking about the difference in transition, okay? These are what scientists have claimed the young adults are struggling with. These are the transitions that we experience. Self-identification, personality, race, gender, sexual orientation. This is all in a world where Satan tries to pervert all of that and pull you away from your identity in Christ. Even children are targeted with this stuff far sooner than they should ever be exposed to it. They shouldn't have a clue what those things are. Second is relating. Post, present, and future relationships, building trust within those relationships. And this is all in a world where relationships break more often, and more often than not, they remain broken. People don't fix things anymore. Don't get me started on marriage. The percentage of marriages that end in divorce right now is sitting at 40%. Which sounds a lot better than that 51% that we heard about a few years ago, right? It sounds a lot better. But when you take into consideration that people just aren't getting married anymore, that 40% doesn't sound that great, does it? The desire to get married brings fear that it will just end in despair. Now, how's that for trust in relationships? Contributing, finding responsibility, career, ministry, life purpose, trying to figure out where you fit in the world and how you can contribute to it. Bearing the weight of that responsibility in relationships, taxes, finance, handiwork, upkeep. And this is all in a world where the jobs pay less and less and the houses cost more and more. Self-care. Navigating physical illness or injury, navigating mental health concerns, and then navigating all of that in the midst of everything else that's happening on this list. There's one positive thing that we have going for us on this one. That's that there has been an increase in mental health awareness lately. We have more tools now to assist with mental illness, and I think right now, one of our issues is that things like mindsets, activities, and lifestyles that probably should be considered mental illness are considered the norm. So it's trying to figure out what is illness versus what is worldly correct. On top of that, I think that sometimes we focus more on mental health than we do on our spiritual health. Acclimation. Consistent adjustment to unfamiliar living and working environments. People do not stay at jobs that much any longer. They don't go for seniority. I'm in tech. I'm a software guy. And it's a kind of a known thing in the tech industry that if you aren't changing companies every 2 to 3 years, you're not getting the raises that you deserve. Companies are more and more unwilling to give raises to the people who've been there longer and will pay more for people outside of the company to come in and do a job that they could have just hired internally. Lastly is meaning making. Connecting one's faith and spirituality to a community. Simply asking the question, how can I make this more meaningful? For this one, I just want to note one thing. In all the struggles that I've mentioned here, it makes it very hard for us to find meaningfulness in the monotony of life. We're trying to take care of all of that. And when that in some cases, it feels like those things are consistently failing, and it's very hard to find meaning in any of that. If we're working our tails off at a job that won't pay me enough to buy a house and mental illness keeps attacking, we're just going to try and find meaning in the very next thing in our life. And let me tell you, there's a lot of meaning in sex, drugs, all the things that God tells us to flee from. There's a lot of meaning in that. We can hide that slide, guys. Thank you. Here's what I love about this awakening in young adult ministry. We're finally asking the right questions. For a long time, I thought that the only question that was asked was, how do we reach young adults? And the answer that came up in how do we reach young adults was, be in relationship. That's a terrible answer. It's not that, relationship is bad. Relationship is like the most important part of any sort of ministry in all ministry contexts. The problem is, I hate that we have labeled our young adults as a unique problem, but we're not giving a unique problem a unique answer. If they're so unique, how can we just apply the same answer for everything to this group that is consistently running away from the church? We're finally shifting the question from how can we find young adults and how can we connect with them to what is making it difficult to connect with this group? What about that relationship is becoming difficult? The church has a passionate and seeking heart for young adults, and they're working really hard to reach us. When Brad Griffin shared all that information about transition, he ended on one note. He said, if there's one thing I can tell you, if there's one thing that you're supposed to take away from his presentation, it's the phrase, tell me more. When you're in connection with someone, at this point, it's not even about young adults, right? When you're in connection with someone and they're struggling, sometimes it can be a lot for them to pour their life out to you, especially when they're expecting judgment in return, especially when they're expecting, well, that's not how I did things. You should just do this. You should just do this. And it's not that easy. When you're listening and there's that moment where they stop and they're like, I've confided in them too much. I've confided in them enough. Don't end the conversation. Say, tell me more. So we've got the data. We're asking the right questions. What's next? I think back to M25. I think Pastor Dave talked about this, so some of this might be a little bit of a review for you. But at the first plenary session at M25, we listened to Dr. Stan Reeder, and he gave a powerful message. And I mean powerful. He was hooping and a-hollering. I mean, it was a revival right there in Bartle Hall. He spoke on Luke chapter 15. He talked about the parables of the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost son. I want to talk about those again today. We're going to go in segments. I'm going to talk about the sheep first. This is Luke chapter 15, verses 4 through 7. What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he has lost one of them, does not leave the 99 in open country, and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and his neighbors, saying to them, rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost. Just so, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who need no repentance. Sheep are stupid. Sheep are dumb. They wander, and they are ignorant of their wandering. When they're eating, they're starting to nibble some grass. Well, that grass is gone, let's move over to the next one. That grass is gone, move over to the next one. Then after a while, they get full or they get bored, one of the two. They look up and the whole herd's gone. They didn't mean to get lost. The sheep in this story are the people who wander in ignorance. They don't know any better. And we have some young adults who don't come here. They're wandering out in the world ignorantly. They don't know. And sometimes it's willful ignorance, right? Sometimes it's like, I don't want to know any about that because that sounds convicting. That sounds, what do they say? The ick. I don't want any of that. I don't want to hear about it. When a sheep gets lost, it's their shepherd's responsibility. It's their pastor's responsibility to go find them. It's my job. Moving on to the coin. This is in verses 8 through 10 in chapter 15. Or, what woman having 10 silver coins, if she loses one, does not light a lamp and sweep the house and diligently seek diligently until she finds it? When she has found it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin that I had lost." Just so, I tell you, there is joy before the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Coins don't wander. Coins don't lose themselves. And they don't grow legs and walk away. Someone had to lose the coin. Someone had to hurt the coin, to cast it away, to forget about it. Someone had to make a mistake and lose the coin. Someone had to be irresponsible. The coin is the people who have been hurt by the church. It's that 20% of people that had negative experiences. And this woman who lost the coin, that's us. The woman is the bride of Christ, the church, who go out and seek those who have been hurt by us. That's a forgiving thing, right? We have to go out, heal that relationship, seek forgiveness, and bring them back in. A lot of the young adults have been hurt by the church. And if we've lost them or hurt them, it's the church's job, the people of the church, to go and get those who are lost. Last part of this chapter is the prodigal son, 11 through 24. And he said, "There was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me a share of property that is coming to me.' He divided his property between them. Not many days later, the son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country, and there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in the country, and he began to be in need. So he went and he hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into the fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, so no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of the father's hired servants have more than enough bread? But I perish here with hunger. I will arise and I will go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.' He arose and came to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Bring quickly the best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his hand, shoes on his feet, bring the fattened calf, kill it, let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate." The son is not the ignorant sheep who wandered ignorantly. The son is not the lost or the damaged coin. The son knew exactly what he was doing. The son lost himself with intention. Now, I don't know if anyone else has had the struggle, but I kind of struggle with that whole I did it. Like the father didn't go out looking for him. Has anyone ever thought of that? The father ran out to go meet him when he returned, but when he was out and squandering away his wealth, there was no search parties to come bring him back, right? The son had to hit rock bottom. The son had to hit rock bottom, and he had to realize the pit that he was in. We recently learned the testimony of a woman who was dealing with her own prodigal son. And her prayers shifted from, Father, heal him, to a real tough one. Father, let him hit rock bottom so he can come back, so he can see the pit that he's dug. We can seek these people, and we can pursue them all day, but sometimes they just need to hit rock bottom. And when they return, the Lord is going to run out to meet them. I got to talk to my group about the church's stance on this a few months ago. And everything that we spoke about then and everything I'm speaking about now is rooted in encouragement and hope. Our age group and the older age groups, we're both responsible because this relationship, any relationship, is just a two-way street. But I want to say this. We see how you all love us. We do see how you all love us. Do you hear that? You all are good at reaching out to young adults. And I'm a product of that. I am a product of that. You guys know I've resigned, I'm leaving soon. But it would be criminal to suggest that my time here at Westside was anything other than the most spiritually formative years of my life. It was you who taught me to be studious in the Word. It was you who held me accountable for that. It was you who taught me the patience and dedication of leadership. It was you who prayed fervently over me and on my behalf. It was you who spoke Jesus over my life through the good and the bad. It was you who gave me the freedom and the grace to adjust to this leadership role in both success and in failure. It was you who checked in on me, sent me words of encouragement. You sent me food. You shared appreciation for my ministry even on months that are not October. You love young adults. I see that. We see this. I know this because of how you have loved me. God used you all during my time at Westside to transform me in countless ways, and in some ways I've yet to discover. And folks, when you love others, when you seek them out, when you invest in them, when you bring them in, and when you welcome them in, there's this moment where human influence becomes quieter than the spirit influence. There is this moment where the obedience kicks in, and the love and support and welcoming in the ministry that you've given was merely ascending directly into God's service, and God takes over. When I joined as a minister, we had like 3, it was not a lot. God saw fit to bring people in, though. Not just to attend, but to serve. To serve Him, to serve the church, to serve each other. God brought in people with hearts for servanthood, hearts for worship, hearts for study of Scripture, hearts for evangelism, hearts for fellowship and play. It was God who anointed a team of leaders, a committee, to structure our time together and plan new events and use their voice. It was God who anointed a worship leader and a worship team to lead us in musical praise. It was God who anointed Becky Livengood to lead alongside me and minister in all the numerous ways that I could not. It was God who saw a group of people struggling to claim their own faith, drifting helplessly with the current of life, and guided them on not only how to cling to each other, but cling to Him. God created a place where people bring their what has been and their what's about to be to the foot of the cross. We have a place where we can come and ask questions, and when we don't like the answer, Jacob derails the rest of his lesson plans to spend the rest of the hour talking about it. And now it's God who tells me that my time is up here. Our group has grown not only in number, but in quality as Christians. And at the point where they are at, God revealed to me that I am no longer the best person. I'm no longer what they need. And if I chose to lead with obedience during my time here, It would completely ruin my ministry if I did not obey when he calls me to leave. This is not my church, and this is not my young adult group. This is God's. It all belongs to Jesus. And it is Jesus who tells us to seek out the lost. I want you all to look around at the people sitting next to you. Take a look. Wake them up if they need to be woken up. What if I told you that just because they're sitting right next to you doesn't mean they're not lost? What if I told you that just because they happen to be in the church building and in the pew next to you, they're not struggling? What if the person next to you has it on their mind that they might not come back next week? This is their last Sunday. People here and around us are on the brink of running away. There are people like that here, I promise you. I don't know you by name, but if that's you, I'd like to chat with you. As you have loved me, I charge you to love our young adults. Nurture them, stay with them, be still with them, serve with them. And when they're in transition and their hearts are heavy and they start pouring out their heart to you, you just say, tell me more. Tell me more. Leaders and lay people across the globe are coming together. Research is being done. Interviews are being held. Discussions are being had. The globe is in deep prayer and petition for the age group of 18 to 45. There is an awakening. And each of you, each and every single one of you have a role in that. Whether you like it or not, you have a role in this ministry. My hope is that you hear my passion for young adults and that you're able to hear that the globe is the same. There is a deep passion for this group. I hope that you take my passion, and I hope that it's igniting a fire within you, just as that a fire was ignited in me 8 years ago. I'm excited to see how the young adults blossom and flourish, not only at Westside, but also across the globe. There's an awakening. And you have a part in it. Pray with me. Father, I speak Jesus over the young adults today. I speak Jesus over this church. I speak Jesus over our community. I speak Jesus over our country. I speak Jesus over our world. God, there is an awakening in the hearts of Nazarenes across the globe. God, I pray that you would just ignite that fire in every single person here, that the young adult that might be sitting next to them or maybe one that they haven't yet connected with, God, that you would just bridge the gap, that you would form relationships, and that we can actually communicate and love each other through the differences in our transitions, the differences in our upbringing, the differences in how we experience the world today. God, challenge each and every one of us today to seek out the lost and the broken and identify which one they are. Are they a sheep? Are they a coin? Or are they a prodigal son? And God, guide us in the ways that we need to reach them. Guide us in the way that we need to go out and seek them. Lord, I pray a blessing over these people today, that as we leave, we would just abide by your will in our lives in all ways. It's in Jesus' holy name I pray. Amen.